In Ontario, we saw a trip in Belleville cut short after
Yeah.
protesters swarmed the motorcade. The thing that killed me about this is some of the apologists on social media saying like political discord has fallen apart. There's no respect. Well, I mean, you have a guy who calls people a fringe minority who really shouldn't be tolerated. You have a guy spending like nobody's business, denigrating people, sort of saying he understands when churches are being burnt down en masse. This isn't Canadians. Canadians aren't inherently an angry. Quebecers maybe a little bit more, but Canadians, I think generally they don't tend to protest. They don't tend to be angry about things. They don't tend to yell their opinions. But this government, Justin Trudeau's government, particularly COVID-19, has exasperated things. But they have brought this on because they are just so outlandish. It's wild the amount of sort of negative things this guy. I don't know if you looked at the ethics violations of every previous prime minister, and not to mention we know how bad he is budget driving sort of more debt than everyone combined prior to him. But if you looked at the amount of scandals and ethics violations and questionable things of all leadership in this country's history, including Justin Trudeau's dad, and compared it to Justin Trudeau, who do you think would have more scandals and more questionable conduct?
Is it really a question? It's Justin Trudeau, of course.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is something that I find that really surprising in Quebec when Justin Trudeau is in. There is no protest. Like I've been chasing him like around in Quebec or Trois-Rivières or other places in Quebec, but where when he's in town, it seems like no one is protesting against him. It's really mostly in Ontario. I will say like Ontario, they are really there. Like when Justin Trudeau is in town somewhere, if it's Toronto or Belleville or Ottawa, there is always protester who wait for him. And I don't know if you noticed, but in Belleville there was like a lot of protester. But did you see like recently the video when he is there for speaking about democracy and he actually asked the police to put the people out, the people who were standing up against him to try to speak up and challenge him. He just like look at the police and just say like, get them out. Like I was like, okay, you're here for talking democracy. So why you don't want to hear like different point of view about what is going on?
Yeah. Well, and it isn't just this is the thing is he was at he was at First Nations or Indigenous games of some sort. He was booed.
Yeah.
Where he comes to the Calgary Stampede, he's booed. He has a dinner now. Alberta's different. He tends to be as cautious as he can about letting people know. They go out of their way to hide where he's going to be. It's a task to try and track him down. Even then, there's protests. But I mean, it's everybody. You can go to First Nations communities, they'll boo you. You can go to conservative Alberta Stampede, people are going to be there booing you, and it's universal. There's always going to be sort of one outlier who's yelling and screaming, no matter who is in charge. That's there's always someone who's willing to throw a pie or crack an egg on someone's head. But when it's everybody in unison, that should tell you something. And if you don't get that, which Trudeau doesn't, he's like we said, incapable of saying, looking in the mirror and saying, "Am I the problem?" I hate to drop Taylor Swift again, but you think he'd say it's me, I'm the problem at some point. But yeah, I don't know. He seems incapable of it. One thing though, if you don't mind, that I want to
Yeah.
contrast to this, the media's attention on Pierre Poilievre calling this $540,000 dollar Niagara home a tiny little shack. That got more attention than Trudeau like evicting journalists and cops pushing people, or in the mainstream media, it probably got more attention than the lady getting trampled by the horse. This is the contrast is wild, and the point that he's making is
Uh,
this is a small-ish home, a tiny little shack. Sure, maybe that was a little insensitive towards the person who owns the house, but that is a very small home. It looks slightly shackish at a quick photo, but that's a small, moderate home that an average person should be able to afford, and it's $540,000.
what?
Yeah, and
What?
well, in
This
Calgary,
is
the median house price is $600,000. It might be
Wow.
higher than that, your average house. And then if you talk about Toronto, like my house in Toronto, it's a small, relatively modest house, would be like 1.4 million. Like Vancouver's the same. The point that he was making is what media should really be outraged about, and it's how Justin Trudeau, whether it's groceries, whether it's house prices, we've seen rent and mortgages double just in 8 years under Justin Trudeau. Everything is getting untenable. But what they focus in on, all the media, is, oh, he called this house a tiny little shack. Sure, was it the most eloquent words? But it just speaks to the double standards within media, doesn't it?
Yeah, but in the same time, he's a little bit right. This is a really tiny shack because there is like and especially for the price, because there is like a house selling not far away, beautiful house, and is $200,000 less than that. And
Yeah.
I find that outrageous to see the price when you see the house, and
Oh yeah.
especially I'm just thinking at there it looked like there is a lot of reparation to put in this house also.
Yeah, yeah, it's got some work required for sure. Hey, that's it's a perfect metaphor for Justin Trudeau's Canada.